Hey guys, what is up? It is the Fast Break Report here, bringing you guys another vlog. So it finally happened. I didn't expect this to happen, not this year, but I kind of figured it was going to happen at some point. And that was that the Milwaukee Bucks finally lost in the first round. They lost to an 8th seed. They're the 6th team in NBA history to be a 1 seed and lose to an 8th seed. And the final game was all coaching. I'm just going to call it what it is. Like, Eric Spoelstra gave Jimmy Butler the basketball and said, go win me a basketball game. And Coach Budenholzer put his players out there and it seemed like they had no fucking idea what was going on. In overtime, it was a mess. The whole game, it was a mess. Even in this entire series, it was kind of a mess. I'm just going to call it what it is. Like, it was pretty disastrous. And, final game, Giannis puts up 38 and 20, which is great. He only played 3 games in the series. I understand that. You know, it's not a lot. But in the games that Giannis did play, I feel like the NBA is kind of starting to figure Giannis out a bit. Now, in 2019, 2020, when the Toronto Raptors won their first championship with Kawhi Leonard, the Toronto Raptors had basically said, we're going to force Giannis to the center of the floor and make him shoot jump shots. That's what we're going to do. And that's how they ended up beating the Milwaukee Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals 4-2. They forced Giannis to shoot jump shots. Now, I understand the Milwaukee Bucks are a lot better these days than they were back then. But it's just the idea, in Giannis's MVP year, the Toronto Raptors found a way to basically shut down Giannis. And that was to make him shoot jump shots. And in this closeout game against the Miami Heat, that's pretty much what Miami made Giannis do. They were like, you know what? Shoot jump shots. Mid-range jumpers, we'll take those all day. Giannis looked fucking terrified to go to the free throw line, okay? He shot 45% from the free throw line in the 3 games he played in the playoffs here. And if Giannis can't develop a jump shot, man, I don't know how many rings he's really going to win. Because I feel like he's so reliant on just being this athletic freak of fucking nature that he hasn't really worked on anything. Like, his 3-point attempts have been going down consistently since his MVP year. You know, it went down. I think he was taking about almost 5 3-pointers a game in 2019-2020 when he won the league MVP. Then it was 3.5 for 2 years after that. And this year was only 2.7. And I think if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, you really need to evolve Giannis's offense into something different. I don't know if they need a shooting coach. I don't know what it is, but you cannot keep putting Giannis out there and expecting him to just dunk on 3 or 4 people forever. Okay, at some point in time in his career, Giannis is going to have to develop a jump shot. Now, I understand he's only 28 years old. I would argue he has a case to be made to be one of the greatest basketball players ever. I think he's going to be the greatest power forward ever by the time it's all said and done. But it's just the idea, like, if he is going to continue to be a potential candidate for the GOAT, because the guy's won damn near every single fucking award you can think of at the age of 28, and, you know, he's still got 4 or 5 years ahead of him, this is a guy who has to develop a jump shot. If he is going to continue to be put in these types of conversations, or at least be brought up with the guys who have a chance to be the greatest of all time, Giannis needs to develop a jump shot. These fucking mid-range jump shots, the shitty free throw shooting, the shitty 3-point shooting, they need to get Giannis a shooting coach, is what they need to do. That's what the Bucks need to do. They need to get Giannis a shooting coach, because anytime you take him away from the basket, you might as well live with the result. You know what I'm saying? Like I said with Toronto in 2019, they made Giannis take shots away from the basket. Giannis doesn't have a post game. Giannis doesn't shoot jump shots. Giannis looks to straight overpower you. And yes, that worked for LeBron James for a very long time, and still to this day it does. Okay, 6'8", 230? Like, yeah, that'll work for you. And Giannis will always have that in his bag. But it's just the idea when you are 6'11", and I get that that has worked for you for such a long time, teams are going to start figuring you out and make you shoot jump shots. They're like, that's exactly what Miami did in the closeout game. They're like, okay, like, Giannis had times in the closeout game where he could have beaten somebody off the baseline, and he was so worried about getting fouled that he just deferred to somebody else. And I think to myself, that's where things start to get mental. Okay, that's where you start getting into things where you're worried about foul trouble. You don't want to go to the free throw line. As somebody like Giannis, you have to embrace those moments. Okay, when you are the best player on your team, you have to embrace that moment. You're a 2-time league MVP, a defensive player of the year, a most improved player of the year, an all-star game MVP, a finals MVP. You're an NBA champion. You have to get some Jimmy Butler about you. You have to want those fucking moments. And I look at this series and I just think to myself, was this good Miami Heat? Or was this bad Milwaukee Bucks? And I hate to say that, like that's what I wanted to title the video, but it was really bad Milwaukee Bucks. I understand Giannis only played 3 games, he was injured, but like it's just the idea, like the Miami Heat, Tyler Hero was injured, Duncan Robinson stepped up to the plate, Gabe Vincent stepped up in the final game, Jimmy Butler to me, should be in the conversation for one of the greatest playoff basketball performers ever, because it seems like a lot of players in the NBA shrink in the playoffs. Paul George has his moments where he shrinks. DeMar DeRozan, James Harden has a history. Like there's a lot of guys in the NBA that don't rise to the occasion in the playoffs, and Jimmy Butler is one of those guys that consistently does it. Okay, like yeah, he might have one bad game or so, but when Eric Spoelstra puts the ball in Jimmy Butler's hands and says, "Go win me a fucking basketball game," Jimmy Butler is capable of doing that in the playoffs. I mean, Jimmy Butler scoring 42 in a closeout game against Giannis, I think was a bit of a statement. Like, I really think Jimmy Butler took this game personally, so to say. It was fun to watch. It was nice to see Gabe Vincent step up. It was nice to see Duncan Robinson finally get a second chance. Like, it sucks that Tyler Hero had to get injured for us to see that. But, Duncan Robinson came up and had a big game. I just think to myself, Eric Spoelstra definitely, I think, coached circles around Mike Budenholzer for most of this season. This series. Mike Budenholzer, his players looked lost, especially in the last couple games. In overtime, they took Brook Lopez out of the game, so now you have damn near no rim protection to prevent against the lob and stuff like that. It's just like, I really didn't understand a lot of the matchups Mike Budenholzer ran. I really didn't understand some of the, the rotations, like the matchups, the rotations. I didn't understand a lot of this shit. I'm like, why is Mike Budenholzer doing that? Like, why take Brook Lopez out of the game when there's a lob to the rim and he's a defensive player of the year candidate? Like, why would you take him out? You know what I'm saying? There's certain things I really, really did not understand about the coaching here from the Milwaukee Bucks in this series. I'm hoping that this is just a fluke. I'm hoping this is a one-off thing that never happens again. But you know what? Giannis is one of those guys that, he's got a good team around him. They have Drew Holiday, who's very good. Brook Lopez is very good. Bobby Portis is very good. Grayson Allen is even kind of, coming to his own a little bit. I mean, even, that was another thing I really didn't understand, since we're touching base on it. Why Giannis was so terrified of going to the free throw line in this game that, they deferred a game-winning shot to Grayson Allen. And I just think to myself, closeout game, final shot, and you want to give it to Grayson Allen, of all people. I'm not saying Grayson Allen isn't capable, I get that LeBron has always, in times, deferred to other teammates. There's times Kyrie Irving hit a clutch shot, instead of LeBron shooting the shot and stuff like that. There's been times in NBA history where, legends have deferred to other players, but I think to myself, Giannis in this final game against Miami was clearly fucking petrified. Okay? He just, for whatever reason, he did not want to go to the free throw line. He seemed like he was scared to go to the free throw line. There was times he had obvious drives to the basket and just deferred to someone else. And I just think to myself, man, once the game gets that mental for you, I don't know if you can win. If you're purposely playing a basketball game and not going to a certain hand or doing a certain thing because you're worried about external factors or other things that could factor into that, you need to work on your game. Okay? Even as good as Giannis is, if Giannis can't shoot mid-range jump shots, if Giannis can't shoot threes, if Giannis can't shoot free throws, we're going to go back to the hack-a-Shaq era with Giannis. Okay? Where teams are just going to, or with Ben Simmons. Okay? Teams are just going to start intentionally fouling him to make it so he has to shoot free throws in closeout games and make him win the game at the fucking free throw line. And you know what? I think this is where that starts. I really think this is where all of that is going to start, because I'm just going to call it what it is. A lot of players watch these games, and players are watching, coaches are watching, GMs are watching, owners are watching. They all watch these playoffs basketball games to figure out how teams are playing certain players. Scouts are watching it. And you know what they're realizing? Giannis can't shoot a fucking basketball. And if Giannis is going to be a potential candidate for the greatest basketball player of all time, because I think he's definitely on his way, or is on his way to being in that conversation. If he's going to continue to be a potential candidate of that conversation, he needs to develop a jump shot. He cannot be scared of going to the free throw line. You cannot be scared of shooting threes. You cannot be scared of shooting mid-range jump shots. And from what I've seen from Giannis this year and in this playoff series, I'm like, he's scared of shooting fucking free throws. And in the regular season, he's shooting less and less three-pointers every year. And yeah, I get it. The Steph Curry era is like, we've kind of adapted at this point. And I understand. I think some people still think we're in the Steph Curry era. I think we're kind of past that at this point. I'm not saying that like teams shouldn't have players that shoot threes. I'm simply saying Steph Curry's not out here ending games before halftime. Okay, like that we're past that at this point. He's still a very good player. He's still capable of it, but it's just the idea you will never find another player that's a replacement for Steph Curry. So the idea that everyone's like, oh well, like every player needs to be able to shoot threes. I kind of don't agree with that, but in Giannis's case specifically, when you're the greatest player on your team and you basically determine if your team makes the playoffs or not, or wins a playoff series or not, Giannis, I think your star player needs to be able to do a little bit of everything. And Giannis can get to the basket, but he needs to develop a jump shot. And even if he can just develop a post game, like, give me a post hook, give me a post fadeaway, like, watch some tape on Joel Embiid. Please just do something other than try to run people the fuck over, because teams are going to figure it out, and I think 2 teams have already figured it out. Obviously, Miami didn't really, like, force him to the middle, but they were like, you can take any jump shot you want. It's just, like, the shots you get are not going to come inside the key. And it worked. And it worked for Toronto in 2019. So, or 2019-2020. So, I don't know, man. I'm not sure what exactly is going to happen here, but I'm just saying, like, if Giannis is going to continue this journey and wants to still be in the conversation for potentially the greatest basketball player of all time, this summer, you need to get in the gym with a shooting coach, bro. You need to like figure out free throws. You need to do a lot of shit. All right. I like me some Giannis. I love Giannis. He's one of my favorite players to watch. But the era of being Shaquille O'Neal is like kind of coming to an end for you. A Shaquille O'Neal that can dribble a fucking basketball. Okay, it'll always be a part of his game, but it can't be the only part of your game. And I think Giannis realized that after the series. I'm hoping you realized it anyway. So tell me what you guys think about this down below in the comment section below. Helps me out, subscribe if you guys want to see more on the Fast Break Report. And I'm out of this motherfucker. Peace, guys.